Hey, what's up, podcast? It's Jeff. Just want to jump in here. This is a special bonus episode of Teach Better Talk. This is actually going to be the audio recorded from a Facebook Live that our team is doing every single day, Monday through Friday, at 8 a.m. Eastern Time in our Facebook private group. You can get in that group at teachbettergroup.com or go on to Facebook and just search Teach Better Team. You'll see our page and then you'll see the group. Get in there. So here we go, a special bonus episode of Teach Better Talk pulled from one of our Facebook Live videos in our private group at teachbettergroup.com. Hope you enjoy.
Good morning, everyone. We are having tech issues on tech issues. My goodness. I'm hoping that this works. This is a different plan this morning than we originally had in our minds for how we were going to go live for our daily drop-in. So as we are here, feel free to pop in, share a good morning post so we know you're here. I'm so sorry that we're later than we intended to be. We had so many tech issues, so I apologize that now we are only just starting about 12 minutes late. Holy cow, that is totally not my style, but I promise you, we were brainstorming solutions like nobody's business. So, good morning. Good to see everybody. Look at all these people that are commenting good morning. I do want to give a special shout out to Mark Heller. Mark Heller was supposed to join us this morning for our daily drop-in, and guys, we tried for like over 20 minutes to figure out all these different tech problems. Mark is an amazing principal that I am so excited to have him join someday in the very near future. He is going to be here with us sharing his amazing insight. I actually had a lot of questions for him because I was kind of excited for him to come live, and he's a principal in Illinois, so I was like, ooh, I can pick your brain. You can update me on all the goings on that happened this weekend for ISB and everything else, but unfortunately, that will just be a preview of what Mark and I will be talking about someday in the future to get him all set up to join us for our daily drop-in. So instead, you guys get me. Good morning. My name is Ray Hewart. I hope that I know a lot of you in this group have already interacted, but I'm currently the Director of Training and Development for the Teach Better team. I'm also a full-time 6th grade math teacher in Illinois. And I love being a part of our daily drop-in. I love having all these people, oh my gosh, commenting, good morning, so amazing. And I am streaming by myself this morning, which I'm a little lonely, but y'all are here and that's all right. And so, sometimes it's kind of nice to have a guest, and I guess sometimes there's a positive in just me being here and answering your questions directly. So good morning, thank you for popping in. As you continue to say good morning to each other, and kind of getting in the swing of things for our Monday morning daily drop-in. I will remind you guys that this is not only something that is a great video to interact with this morning, but it's also a video that will be uploaded to the Teach Better Team YouTube channel. It will also be put as a bonus episode for the Teach Better Talk podcast and 100 different other places to try and give you as much value as possible. This is the only place you can interact with the video. So in this video, we really want you to be asking questions, engaging with each other, and truly having this be a brainstorming session so we can continue to be a little bit better today than we were yesterday and a little bit better tomorrow than we were today. And that whole Teach Better mantra. For those of you that are continuing in your efforts in this development of how we are going to support students remotely, just don't forget that we have a ton of blogs that are available at teachbetter.com from guest bloggers around the country that are continuing to share their insight and expertise as they dabble with e-learning, distance learning, remote learning. Depending on what state you're in, you're using a different term. Additionally, from that, Mastery Chat has completely refocused to be dedicated to problem solving. A lot of things going on with remote learning, so make sure you tune in for Mastery Chat every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we also have added, guys, so many free downloads. Just added another one yesterday. For those of you who caught Caitlin Giordano shop yesterday, actually in this group, we talked for a little over an hour just trying to figure out what we were going to do in our own personal classrooms. We decided to come live and share it. a resource that she noted was this really cute infographic that was something you could give to students to have them kind of understand etiquette when they are in a like a Zoom call or a WebEx call or a Google Meets. And it was just kind of like some really key, simple bullet points of make sure you mute yourself right away, dress appropriately. Is this really great just infographic? That was something that during our video yesterday wasn't available at teachbetter.com because I had not linked it yet, and now it is. So that is something that you can not only get if you reach out to anybody on the team, we can send it to you, but more so if you go to teachbetter.com under the free downloads tab, that's right there for you to download as well. We did have an amazing idea and request from somebody in this group to kind of take all those resources that I've referenced right now and put them in one central location, so you didn't necessarily need to go hunting for Mastery Chat tools and downloads and daily drop-ins and all this. Like, where can we get it all in one spot? That includes our course in the Academy we published for all of you as well on virtual learning. And we said, yes, that makes sense. So actually on our homepage, if you scroll down, the first thing you're going to see is our distance learning resources. And that kind of has everything on it. It includes all of our free downloads, all of our YouTube playlists, all of the courses, all the blogs, kind of all in one central location. So that was me blabbing on about things that you probably already know because you're participating in our daily drop-in, but we're here anyway. So yeah, good morning. So as we get started, do not forget that we are here to support you. So feel free to post your questions. I'd love to hear actually from all of you where you are in this remote learning transition, where you are in this remote learning game of supporting students. I can give a little bit of insight. A few things have changed for me specifically in my own classroom. My district and the state that I currently live in has provided some direction for us, especially for the next few weeks. And so I could share on that. But we also just want to be here to support questions that you have, because all of you are located all across the country, all across kind of like everywhere. I know a lot of you tune in from outside of the US. And so if you have any questions that we can talk through, that's why we're here. So good morning. I do have my cup of espresso this morning. So I hope you guys are enjoying your coffee, getting your day ready. I see a lot of you already interacting, which is so exciting. We have some comments here. Start teaching in 1 hour, getting my breakfast in. A lot of grace today. Yes, I think that continues to be a theme of educators right now. A lot of us kind of had this wiggle room early on where either our district already knew how they were going to implement e-learning, so we kind of went full force, or other districts were like, hey, we don't really know how this is going to go. We have spring break coming up. We're just kind of going to be in this holding pattern for the next few weeks. And for a lot of us, that time is ending. So whether it be ending right now because it's Monday morning, or maybe it ends next week, there's a lot of teachers that are just getting into the swing of things, of finding their groove. And so while it's been fun the past few weeks to talk about distance learning, to talk about e-learning, to talk about how you might implement this in your classroom, it's different now because a lot of us are like living and breathing what this could look like now. So I like this comment here of, getting your breakfast in and giving yourself a lot of grace, because I think that needs to be a theme in, teachers kind of giving themselves a little bit of grace of, yes, we might have these big, audacious plans and dreams, but it's okay to start slow. It's okay to kind of get started slowly, and nobody's going to fault you for that. Give yourself a little grace just as much as we're giving our students grace. And every single student is doing learning in a different way, in a different household, with different hurdles and different celebrations. So I like that was one of the first things that was commented on. And I'm going to give a shout out to baby Luke, because he's the cutest little baby. Every single day tunes in for our daily drop-in. Love you, baby. So sweet. He is our Teach Better mascot, I feel like. Anybody on the team, whoever has the most recent child, becomes like the Teach Better team baby. Baby Luke right now, Andrea, has a wonderful son at home, so it's so much fun. Good morning to everybody. I love all these shout outs, so great. Oh man, Alex is kicking us off with a burning question. So here we go from Alex. Burning question is, can we give families to help them manage and support their children during this period of home-based learning, links would be super helpful. Alex, I love that you started this off. It kind of goes super well with what I was talking about earlier, all the resources that the Teach Better team has kind of put together over the past week and a half as we've been dealing with, like you're using home-based learning, this learning from not in the classroom. And I think that we have focused a lot for teachers on supports for teachers to learn technology, or like kind of dabble with needing to put together a schedule for the week. And then we kind of shifted to, okay, now let's look at tools. What can we provide for our students? So that kind of goes into the download we were referencing earlier with like the etiquette of e-learning, the etiquette of participating in a virtual phone call. And so now we're getting into tools and resources that teachers can download and essentially give right to their students as a possible resource. Alex, you bring up then this third element that we need to start focusing on of what resources do we need for our families? And that's actually something that I'm looking into today specifically for myself, because later this afternoon, my team of teachers that I usually teach with are getting together virtually. And we're going to look at, kind of what's our tentative plan, and then how are we communicating that, and what supports do we need to give to families so that as we communicate this process, they feel supported. And while I do think that we've talked about a few different elements, whether it comes to giving like a daily or a weekly update, kind of similar to a newsletter, but maybe you're doing that via email. A lot of the team talks about doing video emails where you record a video for your families and kind of give them that information. We have a lot of blogs on that. That's a beautiful idea that I completely stole from Tiffany Ott, who's an amazing person that has been a part of the Teach Better team for a long, long time. She does video emails, and I love that resource because it allows families to hear you and be able to hear your tone and see your passion. But there's a lot of other things that our families might need as well. I've seen a lot of things shared in terms of activities and brain breaks for parents who are not maybe familiar with how to entertain a child during e-learning for that entire day. Other schedules that I've seen for families to set up breaks for their student to have a really full day, not only sitting in front of a screen but going outside and making healthy choices. But I think I'd really like to throw this question back at you and ask you what resources you feel like a family needs. Because while I can make a general guess or prediction, the reality is that you might know as a parent the type of supports a family might need, or you might have heard a family communicate to you that they need a specific support. And I would challenge you that when you hear those tools, let's share those out with not only our network here, but with the team specifically, so we can create those downloads, create those courses, create those blogs on this idea. Because I think dependent on the family's location, socioeconomic status, and all those different factors, our families need different supports. So if you feel like your families, whether you're a classroom teacher, an administrator, or something in between, if your families have been sharing with you that they need something, it's great. We should all be putting that together and make sure we're supporting our families. But I think this additional layer that comes with this group that we've built is that then we need to share that out to our larger network, because I'm confident that I am not supporting my families that I have for my 150 sixth graders that I see every single day. I'm confident I'm not providing them all the tools they need. And so if there's an idea that's sparked in this group that actually could allow me, all of us together here as a family, to serve our families better if we continue to share our resources. And so I kind of think that goes back to something that we talked about 2 weeks ago when all this started, is that we had two different kinds of teachers. Some that went straight into remote learning, and some that had this gift of time and they were dabbling with tech tools. And this is the time where we kind of need to bring these two groups together and have them share their expertise. So the educators that have been involved in remote learning, maybe been thinking about this for more than just the few hours this morning. What have you found? What have been the hurdles that you've overcome? And how can we share that insight? And on the flip side, for the teachers that have been focusing more on teacher care, developing a schedule at home, looking into tech tools that you've never had the time to explore before. What can you share with this community that can allow us to do things better? And I think with this collaboration of knowledge, we're going to really build a resource of the Teach Better team private group of this ebb and flow of sharing different elements for teachers to be successful. So I love that that was the question that kicked us off this morning. I know there's over, 20 comments that I'm not at yet, so I apologize. This is the problem with going live by yourself, is that I get on these tangents and nobody's here to like cut me off and stop me. Joe is popping in this morning. He says district just moved to a Monday through Tuesday. It looks like Monday. It's either Monday through Thursday or Monday through Tuesday, with Friday being no new instruction. Oh, I bet it's Thursday. So the district moved from Monday through Thursday, with Friday being no new instruction, but a catch-up day, which gives students and parents and teachers, I'm sure, I can't see the rest of this comment, but time to catch up, I would assume. I'm seeing that throughout a lot of different districts as states continue to decide the type of insight they're going to provide their districts. Some districts have decided that there can be no new content at all. Some districts have decided there can be no grades at all, while other districts have said, hey, you can do new content, but let's only do it within a short period of time and give families a catch-up day as well. Jessica says, in my district in Alabama, created a 120 problem packet for multiple choice problems. Not sure what to do with that. Interesting. So other kind of districts approaching this idea of maybe just providing students the opportunity to learn. So this packet of multiple choice problems, I don't know if that would be my initial pick, but then providing that to families at least to be able to say, hey, we're giving you a resource of knowledge you could start looking into. I am seeing that pretty frequent. Tammy's popping in saying, I use Seesaw, but our district is Google Classroom. So I posted on Google Classroom, my activities are on Seesaw. Okay, so Tammy, you're kind of in a similar spot as I am. And I apologize, I do see that there are 23 more comments outside of the one that I'm reading right now that I will be getting to. But Tammy, I too use a resource that isn't necessarily the one that my district's recommending. And so I'm needing to make some adjustments to communicate to my students who are hopefully going to the resource that my district's suggesting. So I'm actually going to kind of shift my normal day process where I have my own website that I use. I also use Seesaw, and I'm going to go to the platform that my district's recommending to start my communication with families on where they should be looking for my own information. So while I usually would assume my students would go to my own website to get information, I actually am going to my school's LMS and creating a Google Classroom to help make that process easier for students. Because it's easy when they're all sitting in my classroom to say, okay, guys, go to hewardhangout.weebly.com. That's where we're going to get started today. But now, because we're kind of teaching our students to start a Google Classroom, I am making a Google Classroom, even though I normally wouldn't have, because I know my students are going there to start their day. And so I do want to be a part of that so that my class doesn't get forgotten or other tools doesn't get forgotten in my students' time. So I understand kind of needing to find that balance and direct students to where you want them. I think that making a Google Classroom to have that information is going to be a good choice for you, and it looks like that's what you're doing. So Erin Hall is in here. Erin, it's so great to hear from you. Rhode Island doing amazing things. I feel like I'm living vicariously through all the amazing things Erin's doing. She said, start slow and set up a strong structure. Even if your first class is all about structure and there has and no content, that will set your online class long term. Yeah, Erin, we talked about that a lot last week, and I think it's important to touch on, although our classroom might be able to function just fine, especially those teachers who maybe use the grid method and they're like, oh, my students already take ownership over their learning. They already know how to operate in a self-paced mastery framework. The reality is we have to go back and we have to be able to offer these days of learning procedures. So I'm actually going to be doing that starting tomorrow with my own classroom. We're not diving into new content. We're going back to the basics. What's the procedures? What's the expectations? I need to get my students ready for setting up their space. I talked about that a lot on our video yesterday, and just slowly start going through these elements, kind of teaching our students how to learn in this setting, so that when we get into new content, they're more comfortable and they kind of understand where we're headed and why we're headed in that direction. So I love seeing that stuff. There's some great comments in here about baby Luke, and Brianne continues to kind of voice the need for us to give each other grace and let students know that we're all in this together, which is absolutely spot on. Tammy's noting that some of our counselors have been calling our families to check in to see how they're doing. I love to hear that teachers are not only seeing themselves as content deliverers, but really taking ownership over our students' well-being. So whether you're in a counseling role or a classroom teacher role, reaching out to your families to see how they are, not only so we can gain understanding in what their home life is looking like, but also in the reason that we do want to just check on the well-being of our families being really important. I do want to get to these 26 comments that I haven't yet read. Facebook's warning me about that. But I also think it's important. This is a good time, Tammy. I'm going to reference something that I mentioned in our video yesterday when I was talking with Caitlin about how I'm starting my time off. And I think for me, I'm planning tomorrow being dedicated to students setting up their workspace. And I'm doing that not only so students can really be cognizant of needing a space every single day that they can sit down to learn, but also to note that I'm actually collecting data off this assignment. So I'm not necessarily telling my students that, and if I have students listening, then congratulations, you know my secret. But I want my students, their first assignment is going to be set up their workspace. I want them to go through why they have certain things in their workspace, what their workspace looks like. They can sketch it out, and then I want them to actually create it and take a picture. And then I want them to do a voice over or in a video of narrating an explanation of why they put certain things in their workspace. And the reason I'm doing that is because I kind of want a portal into their home, into their workspace. I want to hear if it's a quiet environment. I want to know if they have chosen a table for learning, or if they've chosen the carpet, or maybe they're sitting in their bedroom. I want to know the type of environment my students will be learning in, because that does give me some insight. And so while I will continue to ask them to reflect and give me information, the first thing I'm doing is really an assignment for what Tammy referenced, to check in on my students, to check in on my families and see kind of what they're experiencing. And I think that's really important for us as teachers to do, whether you do it in the way that I'm doing it or in a new way, in a separate way. The ability that we have to purposefully check in with families definitely needs to be a focus early on. And I think coupling that with Aaron Hall's comment about setting up procedures is a good place to start. There's comments about reading books digitally, which is awesome. There's been some teachers noting in here they've been in this for a few weeks, and they're creating not only structures for their families, but structures for themselves. I like that Tammy's noting that Monday is all about being unplugged and, catching up. I think that's a cool way to start your Monday. And some more continuation on, kind of starting where students are at and eliminating this I can't, and being able to, kind of put in this growth mindset for our families. That's really important. Brian Zwemke is commenting in here. What does a teacher need from their administration at this time? Gosh, that's a good question. To be honest, I can answer this as a teacher, although I'm hoping that a lot of people are commenting in here as well about what they might need for Brian Zwemke's question. Brian actually joined us for a daily drop-in last week, I think it was. It feels like forever ago. And we kind of talked about the administrative lens of remote learning, but we didn't necessarily talk about what teachers might need. Specifically, I think that a lot of administrators are already approaching it from this lens. Selfishly, I really needed something from my administrator that I did get to, I got it on Sunday, and I'm pulling it up on my phone because it really was well done, and I'm going to see if I can find it right now. I forwarded this to Mark because Mark Heller and I, who was supposed to be live with us this morning, was talking about how helpful this was. And if I can pull it up, I'll be very happy. Oh, here we go. It's downloading. All right. So to answer your question, what I needed was this that I got in this email. It's a student engagement table that is the recommendation from my district on the time they're hoping for me as the teacher to keep my students engaged. And I think that this was really important because depending on what district you're in, you're seeing teachers go into problem-solving mode. And teachers, when they're in problem-solving mode, I mean, it's so funny, right? They get in this tunnel vision. They're like, I'm going to solve these problems. I'm going to find a solution. I mean, that's who we are. We're problem solvers. But for me, I was seeing teachers take this in two different areas. One where teachers were, kind of taking this in a very lackadaisical approach of students should be relaxing, they should be on vacation, and this other element of teachers going in and recreating a full school day with 27 minutes of engagement for their one content area, and it was like this very lackadaisical and very intense approach. And so my question was, what's the right way? What does my district want? Is the expectation that students should be engaged in math for 47 minutes every single day? Or is the expectation that they actually shouldn't be learning and they should just be relaxing on their couch watching Netflix? And while I have my own opinion, and as a teacher, I was going to provide different tools and resources of my own opinion, I did really need to hear from my administration, from my district, what they were hoping for, because that then would give me the direction I needed as a teacher to know if I was doing too much or too less and to be able to think through the experience I wanted my students to have. So my district specifically, I was thrilled to see that they laid out, depending on the grade level, the types of the minimum and maximum time of engagement they wanted their students to be experiencing. And so essentially for me as a sixth grade math teacher, they're recommending anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes of learning for a math student every single day. And I loved that. I really needed that because that does give me a lot of grace and wiggle room throughout the day, but it also allows me to do some really fun exploration. It takes my students, 25 minutes to do, and, know that that's okay as well. And so when it comes to Brian's question earlier of what does a teacher need from an administrator, for me personally, and I understand that I'm only one educator on this video I know a lot of other people that are sharing their insight. I have over 38 comments I haven't gotten to yet, so I apologize. But for me personally, I did need a little bit of structure from my district, from my administration, so then I could work within that structure. I kind of think that goes back to the grid method I hear very often. For those of you that don't know, the grid method is a mastery framework. And for a lot of teachers, they feel like this framework kind of gives them this rigid view of how they can teach. And teachers, I think when they originally started, a lot of them feel constrained. They're like, oh, I don't know if everything that I love about teaching can fit in this framework. But the reality is, especially for those that do it, the grid method, that framework actually gives you the security that you might feel like you need when you're implementing the self-paced classroom. But there is so much opportunity, so many different options that you can put in this framework that as you continue to use it, this structure kind of becomes this wave of freedom that you're still using best practice to put your information within. But really, there's so many different options of types of instruction, types of learning you can fit into this framework. And I thought of this in the same way, because while I need the structure, I also need the flexibility to do what I know is best for my own students. And I think that this specifically, this time level of student engagement that my district is asking for, does give me that framework where I feel some safety in having some structure, but also gives me some grace and wiggle room to do some really, really cool things with students. So that would be my recommendation, as I went on my little sob story there of what Ray wants. And all of you are like, this isn't only about Ray. Well, guess what? Today it is. All right, I love that Andrea commented here that she's really enjoying the idea of students setting up their workspace. Good, Andrea. That was not my idea. I stole that from an educator, probably an educator participating right now in this conversation. I don't know who I stole it from, but I love it. So if I stole it from you, feel free to comment and be like, Ray is an idea stealer. It was a great idea I saw posted by another teacher that I thought was wonderful. So I'm so glad that me sharing it again not only amplified that idea, but also allowed you to feel like you could do that with your students. So that's awesome. For those of you that are popping in right now or listening on our Teach Better Talk podcast, I am encouraging all of you to comment. There's over 40 comments I have yet to get to, so I apologize. I am getting there soon. Remember, this is also a bonus episode on our podcast and available on YouTube, but the only place you can participate is in our private group. So head over to teachbettergroup.com, request to join there. Essentially, if you're an educator, we're going to let you in and be a part of the fun. And you can continue to participate here every single morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, in our daily drop-in answering your questions and goofing off a little bit. I really wish I had made breakfast. Wouldn't that be nice if I was sitting here answering your questions with not only my coffee, but like could really use like a really fun waffle, or like an English muffin would be good right now. All right, moving on. Joe is in here. Joe, I've been learning a lot from your experience in remote learning, so I appreciate you popping in here this morning. He says, biggest problem is technology, websites, apps shutting down, or students can't log in because servers are being overloaded. Biggest success was calling parents and students and saying hello and seeing how they're doing. You know, Joe, I like that you're documenting this biggest hurdle and biggest celebration, because while, you know, that hurdle is something that I think is very normal for people to be going through as we've moved to almost a completely, you know, remote learning atmosphere, I think that servers being overloaded is a completely, you know, kind of like understandable hurdle that we really don't have much control over. I love that you also put in this success. Documenting this time is important. It's kind of like having a diary. Every day you could, or every week you could note like, this is my biggest hurdle and this is my biggest success. And then we can look back months later and be like, wow, we grew so much from that. It's so important. Eric is saying good morning. Good morning, Eric. And it looks like Jen Molitor is with us. Jen, it's so great to hear from you. Jen actually is very active in this group. She hosts a monthly support for our teachers who are in a grid method classroom, and I really love that she shares her insight. She says, hey, Ray, is that table something you can share with us? Oh, the table that I have for my district? Sure. I don't know. Is that something that, like, legally I'm not allowed to share? Oh, well, yeah, I can. I can at least tell you. And then I think Caitlin Giordano mentioned that her district did something similar. So my thought process is that while this table might have been something that was crafted by my district, available on like the Illinois State Board of Education website, because she shared with me that she felt like this information that was shared from my district was also shared from hers. And so I wonder if this was something that was shared out in general to all districts that they then pushed out to their teachers. Does that make sense? So I can read it really quick to go through this. I know, Jen, you specifically work with teachers K-8, so I bet that's why you're asking, but also I can share everything with you. All right, grade level, it says pre-K, the minimum says 20 minutes a day, the maximum is 60 minutes a day, and then there's this other part of the table that says recommended length of sustained attention, and that says 3 to 5 minutes. For grade level kindergarten, It says 30 minutes a day is the minimum, 90 minutes a day is a maximum, and it says recommended length of sustained attention, again, 3 to 5 minutes. Then it says grade level first and second grade. It says 45 minutes a day is the minimum, 90 minutes a day is the maximum, and it says recommended length of sustained attention is 5 to 10 minutes. For grade levels 3 to 5, the minimum is 60 minutes a day, the maximum is 120 minutes a day, and the recommended length of sustained attention is 10 to 15 minutes. Continuing forward, for our grade level 6 to 8, it's now broken up by class. So that's typically because in a pre-K to 5th grade elementary setting, the teacher teaches all content areas. Usually when you get to like a 6-8 or a 9-12, it's split up by core content or class. So for this 6 to 8, it says each class should have 15 minutes a day for a total of 90 minutes is the minimum. It says the maximum per class is 30 minutes a day, which gives you a total of 180 minutes a day. And the recommended length of sustained attention is 1 subject area or class. Last but not least, getting into grades 9 to 12, it says the minimum per class is 90 minutes, or I'm sorry, minimum per class is 20 minutes, giving you a total of 120 minutes per day. And then the maximum per class is 45 minutes, giving you a total of 270 minutes per day. And it's saying the recommended length of sustained attention is 1 subject area or class. So I'm not necessarily recommending this. I was just reading the table. I do have to say, specifically from what I fit into in this table for a 6th grade teacher, working with students for about 15 minutes to 30 minutes to me does seem really, really good. Knowing that they have more than just math class, I think 15 minutes as a minimum is totally fine and appropriate. That's probably more where I will personally operate within that 15 to 20 minute mark. So I don't know. There you go. That's my insight. That's all I'll share on that. But I did like that table. That at least gave me, like I said earlier, some structure that I needed. I do want to give a shout out to the 45 comments that I have yet to get to. I love that you guys are engaged so much in this and continuing to ask your questions and provide some insight. Brian commented here, I'm trying to ask teachers how they're doing before asking them what they are doing. Mental health before everything else. I completely agree with that approach. There's another guest blogger actually at teachbetter.com who actually writes about this. His name is Brian Faulkner. I know that he is also somebody connected to you, Brian Zwemke, but he actually blogs from an administrator's lens about needing to ask teachers what they need before asking them what they're doing. And he's actually posted a number of different blogs at teachbetter.com. So I recommend those for all of you listening. If you want to kind of see the support that you can provide from an administrator's lens on mental health, I just know that he specifically has written at least 4 blogs over at teachbetter.com on this idea. And I love that that's continuing to be echoed here. I see Eric's commenting. He says, admin, remind teachers that now is the time to fear nothing in regards to remote learning. Expand your craft without fear. Today's challenges will make us all better teachers. Take advantage. You know, Eric, I think that's really a common message that I'm hoping our network specifically hears, because very early on, and I know I've said it multiple times before, the more that we can see this as a gift for teachers to make sure that they are being stronger and coming out of this better, I think is going to be the lens that we should continue to operate in. How are you going to come back in August? How are you going to come back in May? How are you going to come back whenever we go back? Are you going to come back stronger, either with a better toolkit full of tech tools to support students, or a better lens of understanding what our students are dealing with day in, day out, or for better because you've tried something and failed, or tried something and found success, and how that makes us stronger educators. And so this really is the time to ask the hard questions, take an online course, learn something new, read a book that's been sitting on your nightstand that you haven't yet had time to open. This is the time to come back stronger. And I love that Eric is continuing to echo that. Andrea commented in here, I love how kids can still work at their own pace at home by using the grid for remote learning. Mark Heller also articulated something about the grid, saying the grid is a perfect framework for laying out remote learning for the long haul. I think that idea of finding a way for students to do self-paced learning is important during this time, because our students have different distractions, different interests, different ownership over learning. And so I am hearing that very often, that the teachers that already operated in a self-paced mastery framework, maybe with something like the grid method, where students took ownership already of their learning, transitioning to remote learning isn't really that different, because students already had the grasp of having this eagerness to learn for the betterment of themselves, rather than just learning because the teacher told them to or because they were standing next to them. You're seeing a different kind of reaction and feel with this type of support. Andrea does note that the ISBE website has these guidelines and tables. Good. Thank you, Mark, for sharing that as well. That's what I thought. So ISBE, ISBE, is going to be a great spot to go for that. I knew that table came from somewhere, so it looks like you can grab that table and a lot of other resources. Megan says, it wouldn't let me post just the picture, so here's the link. Awesome. So in our video right now, it looks like Megan posted the link for that table, for that chart that I was referencing. So that's awesome. She specifically says it's found on page 18 for those of you that are interested. So if you remember listening on our podcast or watching on YouTube, you can also participate in this video with the tons of educators that are in here commenting and sharing their insight. There's so many comments I have not read out loud from people that are going back and forth, because there are a lot of interactions here. And if you want to participate in that, you simply need to be in our private group and hop in every single morning for our daily drop-in, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern. This is a great spot to ask questions and brainstorm and really build your network. If you're a part of our email list, I sent an email out earlier this week talking about that we might be giving ourselves physical distance, but we really need to be connecting virtually. I said it way better in the email. There was much more information there, but the point of that email was to talk about that while we might have some distance with ourselves right now, that distance should only exist physically, and there's a lot of that we can be connecting on and building relationships with virtually. And so whether you're choosing to do that by being a part of our private group and participating in these daily drop-ins, or participating in Twitter chats, or downloading free downloads, or reading blogs, finding some way for you to stay connected as an educator, engage with others, and continue to build our knowledge base is super important. So we really encourage you to do that here as well. Now, we've been live for about 45 minutes. I really appreciate all of you that popped in this morning for our daily drop-in. I know it was very focused on some specific questions that we had, but that's the whole point of these daily drop-ins, is that every single morning is different depending on what we need at this current time. So whether you are joining us when the Teach Better team, like today, is live on their own, or if you're joining us when we're able to bring on a guest from our community who's able to share some insight, we really just want these daily drop-ins to be as helpful as possible for each and every one of you. And we hope that you continue to join us every single morning for these conversations. I am going to get to this last question, and then we are going to say goodbye for this morning. But I do want to remind you that we are here every single morning. So in case you missed today, don't worry. You can also pop in tomorrow or any a day in the future to continue to be part of this conversation. Mark Heller says, how do you see planning for remote learning for the next 2 months looking like? You know, Mark, I don't know that I have the answer to that. But I can tell you that that was a part of what my live session was yesterday with Caitlin Giordano in our private group, because I really, really did want to answer that question for myself. And what I've realized is that here's kind of the basics that I'm going with now. And I promise you that these are going to change and adapt as I continue to have more time with my students, gain a better understanding of my families, and as we continue to get more information on what this is going to look like long term. Because as of right now, my district says we're only out until April 8th. But we know that there's a lot of evidence to prove that that might get extended, and nobody knows how long. So here's how I'm operating. I'm going to take the next few weeks and I'm going to focus on review with my students. Every week is going to have a theme, and I'm going to give my students a grid based on that theme. So for example, I'm going to do a grid on fractions and a grid on decimals and a grid on ratios and proportions. I'm going to do a grid on equations and expressions. And these are all going to be ideas that are reviews for students that allow them to have some scaffolding in case they forgot this skill, and then also have some enrichment opportunities. In addition to giving them that every single week, I am going to give them a suggested calendar on what I think they could be working on, kind of my recommendation for those 15 minutes to 30 minutes of engagement every day. But everything's optional, nothing's graded, and everything's for the sake of wanting to be better. And so we kind of had that culture already in our classroom, and I think it's going to go really well for our students. I also hope to have virtual office hours multiple times throughout the day where students can just check in and kind of get the support they need, whether it be related to content or just talking shop and hanging out. So I'm excited to kind of re-engage with them because I haven't quite had the opportunity to do that until this week. And before I get into any of that, I will preface, I'm going to take this week to get into procedures and kind of help students set up their workspace, help students kind of share some reflection opportunities. And I am stealing an idea from Caitlin Giordano where I'm going to do a daily challenge for my students every single day. So every single day I'm going to post a daily challenge that may have to do with content, but probably not. That's going to encourage students to do something. So it could be something kind of goofy that gets a good laugh, or something that's maybe a little more strategic. But this daily challenge is my hope that we are not only going to post in Google Classroom, but also on social media to just have students engage with each other. So I don't quite know what my classroom is going to look like beyond that, but I do know that that will at least get my students back in the swing of things, try and help them set up a schedule or a structure that they may not have yet built for themselves, and then also expose them to content so that they can continue to grow. So that's where I'm at with that. But who knows? Lots of fun new ideas coming your way as we continue to get more information. I do want to give a shout out. Thank you again to all of you that chose to participate in our daily drop-in. We appreciate you. We care about you and really are here. If there is any future ideas you have in a free download that would be helpful, or maybe something that you created that you feel like would be helpful to further share with our community, maybe you want to blog about an idea that you're really passionate about, or maybe you just have more questions that you want answered, we really are here as a Teach Better team, as an entire network to support those ideas and that mission. So whether we're featuring it on our website or just sharing it out in this group, just continue to share because that's what this is all about. Thank you for all that you do. I appreciate you. And we'll see you tomorrow for our daily drop-in. See you guys later.